rise tonight to talk about the government shutdown. I thank my colleague from Minnesota for her remarks. I remember the 2013 shutdown that she talked about. The reason I remember that is while this place was shut down by the senator from Texas, my state was underwater due to some of the worst floods that we had ever seen. And there were people at every level of government, the local level, county government, the state level, coming together to work with FEMA, coming together to work with religious organizations, coming together to work with ordinary people to literally dig themselves out of the mud and the rocks that were the consequence of floods we'd never seen before. And I had to stand there almost like a fool, explaining that the federal government was shut down for politics. And here we are again. Mr. President, for 10 years I've come to this floor and said over and over again that this place had become the land of flickering lights. The standard of success was only whether we kept the lights on for one more day or one more week. The standard of success had nothing to do with whether we were investing in the next generation of Americans. It had nothing to do with what America's place in the world was. And tonight, 18 days later, we're shut down. And just like in Minnesota, just like in New Hampshire, people in Colorado are suffering as a result of this. This shutdown is inflicting real harm on people who are federal workers, who can't pay their mortgage, can't take care of their kids, can't hire a plumber. We heard today the EPA is only getting paid half of their paycheck. You can't pay only half your mortgage. You can't go to the grocery store and pay only half your bill. We have farmers and ranchers all over the state of Colorado who can't get operating loans from the FSA to buy seed or fertilizer. We've had FEMA meetings canceled and critical projects delayed that were vital to our rebuilding after the 2013 flood, the last time there was a long shutdown like this. And after a terrible fire year in Colorado, the Forest Service can't move forward with new projects to reduce wildfire risk in our communities. Rocky Mountain National Park is closed. Why do the people of Estes Park have to bear the burden of the stupidity of this place? The inability to govern like every other entity in America governs, where you could never shut down your local government. You could never shut down your school district, but for some reason you can do it over politics. In this case, why? Over a mnemonic device that the Trump campaign supplied to candidate Trump, the wall. And two things that weren't true. One, that Mexico would pay for the wall. If he had fulfilled that promise, we wouldn't be here because there wouldn't be a need for $5 billion. Because the Mexicans would pay for this wall. And that's what he said over and over and over again. And it was abjectly not true, just as it is not true that what's needed is the wall that he's proposed. We had a bill here in 2013 that 68 senators voted for. That bill had $46 billion of border security in it, 350 miles of fencing on the southern border, internal security, fixed our visa system. Far more effective than the ineffective wall that the president is trying to build now for $5 billion. He can't even spend the money that's already been appropriated. And now he's shut the government down for $5 billion to keep a campaign promise that's not true. It wasn't true then, and it's not true now. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous, Mr. President. Last week, China marked the new year by landing a spacecraft on the dark side of the moon. That's never happened before in human history. Here in the United States, while they were accomplishing that, we had a government shutdown. Now, close observers might say, and they would be right, that NASA, which by the way is closed, marked New Year's Day by successfully flying the New Horizons probe past an object 4 billion miles away. We should celebrate that achievement. But let's also remember that that mission was 18 years in the making because people planned for the future. And American craft is literally on the outer edge of human discovery. And last week we were shut down while the Chinese landed their craft on the other side of the moon. Do you know, Mr. President, because of the fecklessness of people in this body, we can't even put an astronaut into space now? We have to call up the Russians and ask them to put us on a rocket to take us up there. Do you think our parents and grandparents would have stood for that? A unanimous vote in this chamber and in the other chamber passed. We should reopen the government, Mr. President. This is doing too much damage to the country. And the President should understand that part of his job of being President is keeping the government open, not cheering it when it's closed. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.